Recently, Facebook announced changes to their terms of service and, well, by announced, I mean they did it as quietly as possible. Basically, they are claiming the rights to everything posted after 2007, and they will take our content to trade their generative AI, disregarding copyrighted content. And unless you are living in Europe, in EU, unfortunately, the rest of the world does not have the laws requiring there to be an option to opt out. Now, there's a lot of debate on the, improperly named artificial intelligence technology, since there is no critical thinking or real intelligence involved in it, but I'd rather focus on a solution than a problem. If you'd like to dive deeper to the issue and how come this technology is so parasitic for the artists, photographers, writers, and other creators, I put a playlist with the videos explaining that issue more in depth. But to give you a quick overview, those big tech companies have created scraping bots, basically taking all the online content, they're mashing it together and then spewing out basically plagiarized image of whatever someone types as a prompt. And we know they are scraping content they're not supposed to, because many times the results come with an imitation of watermarks. And I get it, for many, it may be fun to play with new technology. They're not thinking that images they got are based on real photography and art stolen from the artists without their permission. If you look at how big tech companies are using generative AI technology, let's call it for what it is, theft for profit. As artists already showing decrease in commissions for their work, and graphic artists are losing their jobs to the prompt writers, it seems like for the photographers it's harder to see the impact it has on us. But if you are on social media to reach people and build your brand, and home feeds are clogged up with fake images imitating landscape, wildlife, macro or any genres of photography, and people with untrained eye can see the difference, how many of the people you would have reached now you're not. Also, how many people would not buy your photography because they type out a prompt to describe your image. It affects so many other creative professions, writers, voice-over actors, background actors in the movies can be now replaced by generated images. As an astrophotographer, I put so much into my photography. Time researching, looking for interesting alignments in a night sky. Thousands of dollars, way in a 5-digit number on my equipment. Who knows how much in a gas driving to locations away from cities. I don't do that for a poor $1 trillion company to grab my content for free, merge it with other photographs and spew a fake image of a night sky. When I go on those adventures, there's something just so indescribably magical. The feeling of awe, being in nature, being under the night sky. You just can't duplicate it with a fake image spewed by algorithm. I'm okay with technology helping us to create, but not to create for us. And unfortunately, those technologies are being used to replace human creativity. Luckily, we already have lawsuits pending. Many artists recently left to other apps. I like the working hashtags on Vero and I can find the content I want. The one that got popular recently very fast is Kara. I'm seeing mostly digital artists and illustrators on it. They have really cool portfolio features separate from the timeline, but unfortunately the hashtags are not working and I'm hoping they will fix it. The great part about them is they do not allow AI images. And I think those apps are great to connect with other artists. However, if you are looking to grow the audience for your art, you are not reaching the general population. I promised you the solution and I do have it for you. There's been amazing people from university in Chicago that previously worked on preventing unauthorized facial recognition that are now bringing us a solution to protect our images. They've created 2 different pieces of softwares that change the picture on a pixel level. So when it's scraped, the algorithms deciphering what's on it have hard time doing so. but to our human eye they look very similar to original. Glaze was designed to prevent mimicking the style, which is great for painters and illustrators, and Nightshade was created to replace the subject of an image with a different subject. They have couple examples of glazed and nightshaded art online, and I've seen couple digital painters testing it on their images, but I'm wondering how photography will come out. We're gonna go straight to download right here. You have an option for Mac and Windows. Unfortunately, not a phone version now, or looks like not in the near future. Pretty quick download, and from here you just drag and drop the icon to the application folder. If you are on Windows, you would just install it through exe file. You'll see Nightshade downloading, which on my computer took only 5 minutes, and also 5 GB of memory. Let's see how we'll do. So I chose this picture right here. As you can see, the dimension of it are not that big. I normally shrink my photos even more for using them on a website. You choose your photo through select right here, and as soon as you choose your photo, it will try to determine what's in it. For me, it went with a folder name that I changed. I just put night sky since this is what I'm trying to protect. You can change the intensity right here to which changes will be applied to the image, and you also have the render quality. I'm just going to stick it with default and faster, and I'm hoping it's not going to take 30 minutes. And the last thing you gotta do is to select where you want to save the file to. I'm creating a new folder for this project. Okay, 3 minutes to analyze. It has not been 3 minutes, it's more like a minute or two. It is finished. Let's see our image. Okay, and that unfortunately looks different. Hold on, let's pause for a second before you write Nightshade or Glaze off. What I got on my first photo here was luckily not a typical result. And we ran different tests on other images, lighter, darker, more or less saturated. They all came out good besides one. After adjusting its saturation and hue, it was close to original. I've noticed Nightshade added pixelation and Glaze added this swirly pattern, but if you're putting on a lower settings, they are both pretty invisible, especially that with social media, most people are just gonna be looking at a tiny photo on their phone. Let me show you a few examples. If you'd like to see the results without YouTube compression, I'm gonna put the photos on my website. It's nathaniels.com. After this weird result, I picked something with similar colors and darkness, and running it through Glaze first, there's hardly any artifacts, maybe a little bit in this area. If we compare them side by side, you can see original image is a little bit clearer than here, but there's really not much of a difference. And then I ran Glaze protection on high, and I have this weird swirls right here, whatever they are. Kinda funky looking, interesting effect, but definitely visible. You can see blotches of magenta and green. The last thing I did was Nightshade and Glaze together, both on low intensity. As you can see, it's pretty clear, there's hardly anything. So then I moved to another image to figure out the whole weird color change. I picked this one as our original image, and I ran it through Nightshade on low intensity. Hardly any changes, as you can see. Maybe a little more noise in a snow right here. Nobody's really going to notice it through social media when they compress the image anyways. And this was on a fast setting, and later I ran it through the slowest one, and the pixelation shows up. You see some right here and here in a snow, and the colors seem less contrasty compared to our original image. You can see the rocks turning darker, and when I put it on default, the changes were really significant. So then I went to glaze, and again default setting gave us those weird swirls, visible especially where there's not much detail and also in a snow, though I wanted to see how it would look like running both just on low setting. We can see a little bit of changes where there's very little detail. The pixelations right here and the patterns in a snow and also in a night sky is visible, but it's gonna get compressed even more. Uploading it online, it's gonna be okay. And then I tested out even darker image, something with the blue tones to see if that's what caused the darkening and the saturation of my first photo. Low setting to really good, there's hardly any changes. Low slowest, well, you can see a little bit of a pattern Nightshade gave us. Default, hardly any difference, but when I jump to high protection, meh. The colors changed slightly, but we did have those pixelations and blotchy color noises. And when I ran it on the highest settings, it was even more visible with a blotchiness and very weird random pattern. But glazing and nightshading it on low fast settings, well, that's pretty good. You can see it when you zoom in, there's slight pattern, but compared to the original image, it looks really good. There's hardly any changes between them. You can make out a little bit of pattern when you really zoom in and look at it. And just for fun, I ran them both on high protection and we can see a little bit of different desaturated colors and changes Nightshade gave us. Since I'm not getting the weird color shift in my dark night photos, I decided to grab a lighter one. So this is our original photo with pretty smooth sky, and when I ran it through Nightshade, well, even on a low settings on this one, you can see the pattern when you zoom in. On a higher settings, you can definitely see changes. Even if I put it smaller, it would be visible. Running both Nightshade and Glaze on a photo on a low setting, yes, you can see a little bit of difference. Would it be as visible shrinking down? Probably not. So on a photos with hardly any details, there may be more changes. And that's the one that changed the color on me again. But adjusting the colors of it, I was able to get it pretty close to the original color. And then I decided to test one more time on a lighter image. I picked this photo with the flowers right here, really nice smooth background. Unfortunately, even on a low setting, we have some patterns in a background right here. So it's those smooth areas with no detail of the photos that are impacted the most. On a high, as you can see, it just came out a little crazy. And on a slowest one, even worse. But then running it through glaze, there's hardly a little bit of pattern visible. It's pretty normal. That's on low intensity. On high, you can see more swirly patterns. Then I put it on low on both softwares and it is visible. For this one, it's mostly Nightshade that's making those changes. So with this image, I would probably just glazed. If we compare it to the very original, the colors are maybe even slightly more saturated in a glazed version, but the difference is so minimal and the details are very comparable, almost hardly noticeable as far as the patterns. So with some images, you may just want to glaze them, just test it out. But for me, most of them looked good, run by both softwares on low settings. As you can see, it may be a trial and error. I'm sure this technology, like all of them, will be changing, so if I find some good new information, I'll put it in a description, and if you find something helpful, please add in the comments. Now, as for myself, I took unplanned several weeks vacation from social media, and it was actually pretty nice. Although I do miss interacting with other photographers and fellow creative humans who like to think for themselves and use their imagination and skills to create something, instead of algorithms pretending to be intelligent. So I'll probably be re-uploading my night-shaded and glazed photos. And I said re-upload because I took most of them down, and no, not because I'm naive thinking they were not scraped before, but mostly to make a statement because not many people know about it still, and more importantly to prevent them to be further scraped by other companies. But as of right now, I'm hoping this is the last video I'm making on this topic because I just want to be with my camera under the night sky. And hey, who knows, maybe YouTube will be my new social media home.